Thanks for tuning in to OUTOFSCOPE, episode number 48, How to Use Influencers to Destroy Your Brand.
Sports marketing expert Brian Cristiano.
Brian Cristiano.
Marketers and advertisers and brands always have to keep in mind, you have to play to the state of your audience.
Sports fans are arguably the most passionate people probably on the face of this planet. If you're not passionate, do something else. For those of you who don't know who DC Rainmaker is, DCRainmaker.com, it's this guy Ray. He now lives in Paris. He used to be, I believe, from the DC area here in the States, hence DC Rainmaker. And he reviews products for endurance sports athletes, runners, cyclists, triathletes, and a lot of it is based around technology products, wearable technology, GPS watches, cycling computers, all the stuff that guys like me as a Cat 3 cyclist live on a daily basis. And he's created a really large following over the years where he has a really passionate group of people that read everything that he writes to understand better the products that are out in the marketplace. And what Ray has really done to separate himself from the noise and really give himself a lot of credibility is he's very honest in his reviews. Number one, he's a very technical guy. He understands the technology very well. And number two, when he tests something, he doesn't just give his opinion based on the company or brand that the product is coming from. He genuinely puts this stuff through the ringer and tests, and you'll see if you go to his site or his Twitter page, you'll see sometimes he's got pictures with like 5 or 6 GPS head units testing out different things at the same time. And he puts things through the ringer, and he's very technical and methodical in the way that he tests it. So when he does a review, it has a lot of legitimacy because he's not just stating his opinion, though he will give it. He gives the pros, the cons, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what worked well, what didn't work well, and he'll test against other products in that category. So it's a really great resource to people that are in the sports of any endurance sport to go and to see the new products that are coming out, new products that have just been launched, and products that companies are creating in the future. And the reason that I bring this up is because today he wrote a post about how a company called Limits, based in Scotland, sent him some very threatening legal language because they claimed that he made some false statements about their product on his site. And they asked him, or forced him, I guess you could say, to post all this legalese in this letter on his blog so that they have their perspective on what he has said. And here's the deal. I'm not going to get into the specifics of whether Limits, which, to give you a quick little backstory, is supposed to be the most low-cost power meter that has come to the cycling market ever. It's very small form factor. It's very different from anything that exists. I've been racing with power meters for 3 seasons now, so I'm very familiar with these products. I won't get into what they are. You can look that up. Read DC Rainmaker's blog if you want to learn more about it. But for those of you who do know, it's at a sub $300 price level for a power meter, which hasn't really been done yet, hasn't even been done closely yet, and the size of this thing is much smaller than anything anyone else has produced. The kicker of this is that this company raised money on Kickstarter at the beginning of this last year, and they raised nearly $500,000 US to create this product. They didn't have a working demo or prototype at the time, and Ray has been writing about this since they raised all of this money, saying, well, this is great in theory, and yes, it's possible, but he was skeptical about a lot of things that the company was saying. I guess the claims of how quickly they could produce it, how small it would be, the way that it would function, and he's not basing this on his feelings. He's basing this on, he has tested all of the major products and even offshoots of products in this market space for years, and he knows what's possible, and he's dealt with some of the biggest players in this industry, and he knows how long it's taken them to put certain products out to market. So he was questioning from day one how realistic this was based on how much money they raised, the timeline that they were putting out there, and the size of the product, the price point of the product. He was questioning it, and he never said anything negatively about it. He simply just focused in on the fact that it didn't seem realistic to be done. That's all. And I guess I don't really know much about the limits power meter. And again, I'm not criticizing one thing or another. I'm going to leave that to the guy who understands it way more than I. But my understanding is they were supposed to come out with a product very, very soon, and that he had reached out to them recently, and the feedback that they had given him in his viewpoint pretty much felt like they were not nearly close enough in a product development phase to have the product ready anytime in the near future. So he wrote about that, and he wrote about it in depth, and he was very sharp in the way that he wrote about it. But I don't think that there was anything wrong with him making these statements. I think that it was something that needed to be said because there's a lot of people that A, have invested money, B, are waiting for this product to come out, especially since it's going to come out soon. So I think it's his obligation as someone that's in this space and writes about it to talk about it in that real way of these were the questions I asked, these were the answers that I got, and based on my knowledge in this industry, I don't think this is realistic. And that's all that he did. Now, Limits, the company out in Scotland, sent him this very threatening legalese letter telling him to take down the posts and that he was wrong and all of these things and forcing him to put this legal paper on his site. Here's the deal. Whether they're right or whether they're wrong, they suck at marketing. These people are clueless as to how this works. Because even if DC Rainmaker is wrong and this company Limits is correct, they could have used this opportunity to use DC Rainmaker as a platform to explain themselves. And I think as a company that's a startup that raised money, it's okay and somewhat even expected that, there's going to be bumps in the road and maybe you overestimated, you bit off a little more than you could chew on a timeline perspective, and you need to take some of that back and readjust it. That's okay. That's totally fine, and I think the marketplace would be all right with that if there was transparency. Maybe it is coming out in a week or whenever it's supposed to come out. I have no idea, but I can tell you for a fact this is probably the most detrimental thing, regardless if the company is real, if the company is fake, if it's a scam, if they're really going to come out with this great product, if it's going to be the next best thing. Regardless, it doesn't matter. They took an opportunity and turned it into a detriment because instead of partnering and using somebody that's in this space to either help their voice get across and explain themselves from we are doing this because we want to help this community, we are putting this product out, or here's the challenges that we've had, or even better, bring a guy like this on board and ask him the questions of how they can improve the product or what the expectation changes should be. Instead, they fought him. And you know what that does? That pisses off every single person that reads that blog. That pisses off every person, brand, company that follows him, and he's got a lot of them. Anyone who was waiting or hoping that this product was going to come out now has a sour taste in their mouth. Not because of what DC Rainmaker said, but because of the actions and the attitude that was taken towards a guy who's been nothing but transparent to every company he's ever done business with or ever written about. Their positioning coming out so strong out of the gate, sending legal letters, forcing him to put it on his blog makes them look like assholes. And you know what? I don't care how great a product is. Nobody wants to buy stuff from assholes. People want to buy from companies that are trying, that work hard, that believe in the space. Because as I say all the time, endurance athletes are the most passionate people on the face of this planet. And you know what? If you're on the wrong side of that passion, they're going to hate you. And I can tell you that they've just pissed off a lot of passionate people that even if they come out with this product, guess what? They lost a lot of sales. They lost a lot of credibility. And you know what? They were so worried about the way that their marketing looked, their video looked, the way their presentation was on Kickstarter to be so polished and perfect. They've tainted 100% of that. All they did was send this legal letter instead of working with a guy who instead could have helped communicate where they were in the process and maybe even help them along. Guess what? They lost. This is how you use influencers to destroy your brand. Influencers can be your best friend. And you know what? Sometimes influencers are going to write things you don't like. But you have to take it either A, with a grain of salt and say, hey, sometimes people are not going to like us. Or B, listen to what they say because you know what? There's a reason that they're an influencer in the space. And maybe you can learn something from them and change something about your company, brand, or product. But instead, The lawyers came out, and guess what? The only company that loses is Limits. That's it. End of story. Doesn't matter how this ends. They come out with the best product in the world. I think they tainted the water for themselves. And it's really unfortunate because as somebody who's in the space who have multiple power meters, I would have been interested in this product. But you know what? I got to say, they put a really sour taste in my mouth personally. And I can tell you, they put a lot of sour taste in a lot of other people's mouths. Thanks so much for watching. I'd love to see what you have to say, what you think about this. Leave me a comment and make sure, please, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Damn, I'm fired up on this one, man. I can't believe it. I'm going to put this in the show notes. Actually, keep this in. I'm going to put the link to Ray's blog and this post in the show notes in the description, both on the podcast and on YouTube if you want to check it out and read it. I would love anybody's opinion on this.